Welcome to Spiritual Journeys. I'm Renee Marie. Today's episode will be about the Master Teacher Baha'u'llah. Baha'u'llah, founder of the Baha'i faith, also known as Father of the Poor. Baha'u'llah was born Mirza Hussein Ali Nuri on November 12, 1817 in Tehran. His mother was Khadija Khanum and his father Mirza Buzurg, governor of Burujud and Loristan. I really hope I am pronouncing these right. Baha'u'llah received a good education and was advanced in wisdom and intelligence. By the early 1840s, he was known as Father of the Poor. He loved nature and thought the country was the world of the soul and the cities the world of the bodies. Baha'u'llah married Asiya in Tehran in 1835. His second wife was Fatimeh, who he married in Tehran in 1849. He married his third wife, Guhar, in Baghdad before 1863. He had 14 children, 4 daughters and 10 sons. In 1844, Sayyid Mirza Ali Muhammad took the title of the Bab, which means the gate. The Bab told his believers to follow, quote, him whom God shall make manifest, and unquote, when he arrives. When he was 27, Baha'u'llah became a Babai. In the summer of 1848, he attended the conference of Badasht, where they discussed maintaining Islamic law or change. Baha'u'llah wanted change and took on the name Baha. Violence broke out between the Babis and the Qajar government. Baha'u'llah tried to reach them, but was arrested and beaten with a rod on the soles of his feet. The Bab and most of the leaders were executed in 1850. On August 15, 1852, a radical group of Babis tried to assassinate the Shah and were executed. Baha'u'llah was falsely charged and was forced to walk to prison in Tehran and was stoned by onlookers as he went. He was cast into a dungeon known as the Black Pit, where he received a vision of a maiden from God who told him he was the messenger of God whom the Bab had prophesied about. The time to reveal this would be later. After about 4 months, Baha'u'llah was released on the condition he left Iran. He chose exile in Iraq. Baha'u'llah and his family arrived in Baghdad on April 8, 1853. Before his death, the Bab had appointed Mirza Yahya as the temporary leader. Mirza Yahya's leadership was controversial, and he spent his time in hiding. During that time, Baha'u'llah was looked to as a religious leader. This was resented by Mirza Yahya. Tensions in the community mounted, and Baha'u'llah decided to leave the city to avoid conflict with the Babai community. On April 10, 1854, he traveled to the Kurdistan mountains. For 2 years, Baha'u'llah lived alone in the mountains like a hermit and used the name Darvish Muhammad I-Arani. When he began to take guests, he became known for his wisdom. In Baghdad, the Baha'i community had fallen apart. Baha'u'llah's family began searching for him. They heard of a man living in the mountains under the name of Darvish Muhammad and begged him to come back to Baghdad. When Baha'u'llah returned on March 19, 1856, he saw that the Baha'i community was divided. Mirza Yahya continued militancy and was unable to provide effective religious leadership. Mirza Yahya dispatched followers to the province of Nur for another attempt on the life of the Shah. The instigated violence against Babis who challenged his leadership. Baha'u'llah wrote to give a new understanding of the Baha'i religion. His rising influence gained the attention of his enemies. The Persian government wanted the Ottoman government to give Baha'u'llah to Persia. The Ottoman government chose to move Baha'u'llah to Constantinople. On April 21, 1863, Baha'u'llah and those with him entered the garden now known as the Garden of Ridvan. Here, Baha'u'llah told a small group of his mission as a messenger of God. Baha'u'llah and his family and followers arrived at Constantinople on August 17, 1863, and were treated as guests. After 3.5 months, he was ordered to depart for Adrianople. Baha'u'llah and his family stayed for 4.5 years in exile. In 1865, Mirza Yahya tried to have Baha'u'llah assassinated twice. In 1866, Mirza Yahya tried to poison Baha'u'llah, which left Baha'u'llah gravely ill for a while and a shaking hand for the rest of his life. After this, Baha'u'llah made public, "He whom God shall make manifest." He wrote about Baha'is' beliefs and wrote letters to the rulers of the world asking them to renounce their material possessions, work together to settle disputes, and they should rule with justice and protect the rights of the poor. In 1867, Mirza Yahya challenged Baha'u'llah to a test in a local mosque in Adrianople that, quote, God would strike down the impostor. Baha'u'llah agreed and went to the mosque at the appointed time, but Mirza Yahya did not show up. Baha'u'llah was recognized by the majority of Babis as "Him whom God shall make manifest," and his followers began calling themselves Baha'is. Mirza Yahya tried to discredit Baha'u'llah to the Ottoman authorities. An investigation cleared Baha'u'llah, but brought out Baha'u'llah and Mirza Yahya's faiths. A royal command was issued in July 1868 condemning Mirza Yahya and his followers to Famagusta, Cyprus, and Acre for Baha'u'llah and his followers. The first years were very bad, but relations eventually improved, so conditions got better. After the Sultan's death, Baha'u'llah was allowed to leave the city to visit nearby places. From 1879 and for the rest of Baha'u'llah's life, he spent it living in the mansion of Baha'i, just outside Acre, and devoted his time to writing. On May 9th, 1892, Baha'u'llah contracted a fever which resulted in his death on May 29th, 1892. He was buried in the shrine next to the mansion. See you next time on Spiritual Journeys.